Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Sunnyview Schools podcast made by students for students. I'm Albert Chavarría, your host for today. And with me, as usual, is a bunch of beautiful people, starting with Mr. McKean.
Hi, I'm Mr. McKean. I'm the English and Drama Coordinator.
Hi, I'm Niels. I'm a Year 13 student.
Hi, I'm Rania. I'm a Year 12 student.
Hi, I'm Paula. I'm a Year 12 student.
Excellent. We have some revisiting guests. Niels has been with us before. Rania and Paula have been here as audience before, but had never actually participated. They might be a little bit nervous, but there's no problem there. We'll circumnavigate that, no problem.
Okay.
And what are we talking about today?
Well, we suggested last week to talk about International Women's Day as it's coming up, but I think I'd rather leave that over to Paula and to Rania. So could you tell us, what is International Women's Day?
Well, for me, International Women's Day is a day where I'm able to kind of look back on history of women that have contributed to make the world at least a bit of a better place for the women of the future, like, for example, us and for younger girls. So just to see all the things that they've done for the world and for women in specific. So.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we look back at the achievements of what women have done for us and, like, everything that we, like, school and, like, the right to vote, which we got, like, really, really late, I think. And, yeah, it's just a good day for celebration for women.
Right. And Niels, for you, what does International Women's Day mean?
I just believe that it's great for women to have inspirations that they should look up to, and Women's Day provides a way for women to have that.
Right. You guys talked about the past, but why is it still important to have International Women's Day on our calendar every year? Why is it still needed? Because surely, if we're looking at the past, some people might say, well, we can always celebrate the past, that's what history lessons are for, right? Or that's what other subjects are for. So why is it still on our calendar today?
Well, it's still important for younger girls especially because, of course, the world isn't a perfect place. And there's still a lot of problems, even though there are less problems nowadays than there were, say, 50 years ago. There's still a lot of issues, for example, young girls not being aware of the fact that they're able to access like STEM field jobs that are usually male-dominated. And I feel like for young girls, it's important that they're able to also be part of that male environment. And yeah, it's important, I feel.
Great. Rania?
I think it's important for younger women to, like, understand what these women have done for us, like Malala, and many other women who have done for us, like Rosa, like the wife, Roosevelt, I forgot her name.
Yeah.
And, like, these people have, like, we can't just forget them. They've done so much for us, and they've, like, pushed us into what we are now. So I think it's important to remember all the people.
Right. And what would you say that there are some advocates that even every time International Women's Day comes around that say, let's get rid of it. There's no point. Women are now equal in society. Let's get rid of it. What would your natural response be to that? And obviously I'm suggesting these questions, they in no way reflect my views. Just,
Wow.
you know.
It's definitely not equal, whatsoever. I mean, maybe it's a tiny bit more, but if we're looking at things such as the gender pay gap, which is a really prevalent issue in kind of the work field, things like that. And also, I mean, this has already been solved, like women can vote, but that was really recent. As Rania said, it was really recent. And there are other issues as well, such as women not being able to go out to the streets like confidently. They have to always have something with them to protect themselves. So these things have to be addressed constantly, even nowadays. So yeah, like things like that.
I agree with Paula about the thing of women not being able to go out confidently. Like back in home, Pakistan, it's not that easy for women to go out.
Right.
Like if I were to go out, I would have to go with a male family member, and the streets there are like full of men. There's no women in sight, and if a woman were to go out, like they'd look at you with lust and like they have no respect over there.
Right. Okay. That's kind of shocking to hear, you know, particularly in today's modern society. Niels, obviously your perspective will be quite different on this podcast. Have you ever been, you know, witness to a situation like this, or is there anything that you could maybe add to this side of the discussion, particularly
I would
with girls
still
on the
agree
streets?
that we still need Women's Day, but it's try to achieve equality, especially in the third world, like she said, in Pakistan, many countries like Somalia, example, women are not even remotely close to achieving the same rights as men, and we need to help them achieve it.
Right, okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple of terms now, because obviously this topic has brought in new language and some of our listeners might not be familiar with that. What actually is feminism?
Okay, so I feel that every person has a different definition for feminism, but the kind of general thing is kind of the advocacy for women's rights and things like that, for women to have the same rights as men. That's kind of the general term for feminism, like making sure that women also have the right to choose, have the right to like do everything in life basically. But like I said, it's different. For example, for a transgender woman, it might be different. For a woman that is part of the LGBT community, it could be different. So it really depends on the person.
Right. And what would you say to somebody that says they are not a feminist?
So yesterday I watched this video where it was anti-feminists and feminists debating about certain topics, and when I think of the word anti, I feel like it's like strong opposition to something. And when I heard anti-feminist, it's like, are you just like completely opposed of women? But it actually wasn't that. It was more that they focus on human rights, kind of in general, and not just women's rights, because women's rights go into human rights, which I completely understand. So I think both perspectives should be seen, and I don't think that anti-feminists are like against women at all. So. Okay. Can you think of any other term or terminology or any other language that has come up, or kind of what has developed from, you know, this birth of feminism and the different waves that it's come into? Like, how has it come to the modern day? If you could give us some information on that, that'd be great.
I mean, when we were talking yesterday in literature about the word mansplain, that's become like a bigger word. People use it a lot, like explaining. It's like explaining something about women, but in like a man explaining this. Right. So it's like their perspective on it, and it wouldn't really make sense because they're not in our bodies. They don't understand the same way we do.
Right.
That's what mansplain is. Okay,
so that's definitely interesting there. And what would you say to people that believe that things like International Women's Day and feminism are anti-men? How would you respond to that? And I'd like a response from all three of you.
Some feminists do think that it's anti-men, and they're completely like, oh, men suck, men do this and that negatively. But personally, like, there are different types of feminism, obviously. I can list many, I think, but I'm not against men, because there are things like such as the patriarchy. There are things such as like the patriarchy that has benefited society in some ways, but not in all ways. So I can't blame men on everything, because there are also women there to blame on some things. Right. So it's there are some, like I said, there are some people that are against men, but I don't think that we should be against men, because men's rights and women's rights both are in human rights. So if both have rights, then it's considered human rights. Right.
Rania? I don't think it's anti-men at all, because we're not saying that when men have their day, that it's like, oh, they hate women. No, like they have their separate days, and it's like Women's Day is to like advocate for women's history and like learn about the past. And I think they're both really important. Okay.
Niels?
Could we just repeat the question once again?
Yeah, so what would you say to people that believe that this the International Women's Day, which is on the 8th of March this week, and feminism is, because it's pro-women, it's essentially anti-men?
I wouldn't say it's anti-men. Okay. As I do think, to an extent, a very small portion of feminists are anti-men, like she said. And I do believe that the feminist cause, while good, very good, at some point in the near past has led to a lot of men's issues just being completely forgotten.
Right.
Like, you mentioned their day, like Women's Day. What day is Men's Day?
I have no clue.
I think it's the 19th or 18th November.
It's the 19th of November.
I didn't know there was a Men's Day.
Yeah.
There is a Men's Day.
And
Right.
that's just the thing, is, you know, like, it rightly has been a focus, the women's movement, but it's the men's movement has also been completely forgotten, and we have to move together as a society because we are, you know, equals.
As equals, yeah. Well, I find it quite sad that there actually has to be either a Men's Day or a Women's Day, or that feminism has to exist. But my question is, do men and women have different roles in society, or should they all have the same roles? I mean, clearly even now we have the biological, ethical dilemma whether men should be able to have children, grow up children. So what's your take on that when it comes to feminism and International Women's Day?
So in society, it has been established that men are kind of the breadwinners. They go out and earn the money, and women stay at home. So like the nurturing, women have the nurturing side, right, and men have the, I wouldn't say not nurturing, because of course they can be nurturing, but they're the ones that go out and, let's say, dominate. And that has been established in society. And I think that those should stay in some way because of, like, I don't know, because of course women can also go outside and earn the money. There are definitely families that have done that men stay at home, women go out and earn the money. So some people argue that is kind of like a reversal of the societal norms, that women go out and men stay at home, but I think it's just like whatever the family wants. Like it shouldn't be like, okay, every family has to be like men goes out, women stay in. So it depends.
So you're talking about choice. The problem is that in the past there was no choice. Women had to stay home. Mm-hmm. Now the women can choose whether they stay home. They're the breadwinners, and so that goes hand in hand with Niels' argument that the man can choose as well. I don't want to work. I want to be the breadwinner.
Yeah, because I think feminism is also like for women to have the right to choose what they want to do. Men already have the right to choose what they want to do. Mm-hmm. So women should have the same thing. Well put.
I like that. How about you, as young people of today? Have you been privy to any of this? Because we're talking about the past. We're talking about women's rights, the right to vote. Supposedly, we already have all that. You, as young girls, whether in school, with your friends, in society, in family, have you ever felt discriminated against because you're a woman?
I think everyone has once felt discriminated, especially me back in home, like I said before. When I go out, it's like I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to go out anymore. That's why I barely went out. I only went to like my friend's house or my family's house. I would barely go out because men would look at me with like lust, and it was disgusting. But and also in families, when they tell, like in Pakistan, the culture is that women shouldn't work. They should be married off into like a wealthy family. And one of my friends back in home right now is, I didn't want to say this, but like she is being forced to marry someone who's 25. She's 19, and
sorry to interrupt. She's grown in Pakistan all her life.
Yeah.
For her, is this something normal, or can you feel that she would like a different situation?
She does not like this at all.
Right, because that's a big difference. What I think is when you're born into a society or into a culture and you see nothing wrong with it because that's the way it is, you might have an argument, in this case against women's rights. But if that person innately and from the very get-go knows that something's wrong, that's when you have to start movements like these. That's when you have to say, okay, something's going on here. Was that your case as well? Do you feel liberated now that you live in a country like Spain? Have you seen a huge difference?
Yeah, I do. Like I can walk on the streets, I can do anything. And I don't feel discriminated against. Well, not all the time, but I feel much more safer in Spain.
And was it hard to break your traditions to come here and be free? Because it must be hard as well, right?
Well, I was 6 months old.
Ah, right. So you've been here for a while, right?
Yeah.
That's
Good for you.
Yeah, like it's a really compelling story that makes you reflect, right? And kind of shows, you know, how in different societies these issues, you know, are of different magnitude. I wanted to ask, you know, we talked earlier, you guys mentioned about this idea of having choice. How do we allow people to feel that they can make those choices? I'm going to give you an example, right? And this is compared to what we've just been talking about, this is a lot, you know, less serious, right? I teach A-level English literature with Miss McDonald. We don't have a male in our classes in both year 12 and year 13, right? This particular subject is often chosen by, like last year we had a boy choose the subject, but that hasn't happened for a while, whereas subjects like, say, physics and things like that are often chosen by men and often ignored. Or
This is literature?
So, literature, English literature.
Do you read Star Wars or Harry Potter?
That's the but the thing is, like,
answer,
no, I know. I mean,
joking.
No, of course. I mean, but then obviously, you know, the texts and things that we choose, you know, in year 12, all of the protagonists, well, most of the protagonists are male, right? So there's not saying that their voice is not represented, because there's a range of voices. But then, say, literature is chosen more by the girls, and say physics is chosen more by the boys. How do we break that? You know, how do we break that?
So I was part of the EYP event, European Youth Parliament, and my committee was about women's rights and gender equality. And one of the specific thing that we looked at was the gender pay gap and how to make sure that we can encourage more young girls of the younger generation to kind of step over that boundary to also go into STEM field jobs. And one of the things that one of my teammates proposed was, for example, she was from Germany, and they have this thing called Girls' Days and Boys' Days, where they do kind of like a field trip thing for girls to make them visit jobs where they may feel underrepresented, such as in engineering jobs and IT jobs. So I think something like that to start from a very young age is really essential, because then they're able to grow as being represented more. Right, interesting. Niels and Rania, do you have anything? How would you bridge that gap so that the subjects are there's not kind of this subjects for boys, this subjects for girls, like how colours have been presented, like, you know, blue for boys and pink for girls, which to us now seems ridiculous, but how do we break that?
I agree with Paula that from a young age it should be represented, and like make it more enthusiastic for people to choose like what subject, as in like, yeah, like girls' days and boys' days, like that they can go to jobs and like see how it actually is, so they're not like choosing what is like made for girls and what is made for boys.
Niels?
It's a really hard question, because obviously the trend, like you said, in literature, there's no men in the class. I think while we should try to correct it, it's also a psychological thing that men are pushed towards stuff like physics and sciences and stuff like that, and women are also more interested in things, and that's why, like you mentioned, the gender pay gap, women are paid on average less than men. I think it was 75 cents a dollar.
79 cents per every dollar that a man earns.
Yeah, so obviously that's a big thing, but it's also just it's not reflective of the whole truth that on average men and women just work different jobs, and the fact is that if you're an engineer and if you're a teacher, for example, my mum's a teacher, and I think that teachers are incredibly underpaid. The amount of work they do is incredibly underpaid.
Hallelujah.
The amount of women teachers are higher than men, typically.
True.
And it's just a shame that they get paid less, but it's not due to statutory sexism. It's just due to the different jobs that they choose.
Well, from a psychological sort of perspective, there are also, like, I have had friends who were girls that, like, I've seen they've had so much potential in earning so much more. For example, in my old school, I had a friend who was really good at math, really good at science, things like that. And then she chose, she said, like, she really wanted to become a professional gamer. Sure, I'm not against gamers, I'm not against that. But I saw so much potential, and seeing that she didn't take that to her advantage, it was sad to see. And another thing is that in these STEM subjects that are male-dominated, there has been a study done, I forgot the name, but there was a study done where it showed that men kind of create these hostile work environments for women so they don't feel safe to work in these places. Right. Such as there are some jobs where policies such as for sexual harassment and things like that are not implemented, and that can be very dangerous for the woman, you know. So.
Okay. That, yeah, I'm not surprised, but that doesn't make it less shocking at all. How do we then prepare, you know, for a better world? Because essentially the idea that I'm getting here is that things like International Women's Day, the whole point is to make the world a better place to live in. Yeah. How do we start from school? What do we do? So you mentioned the things that your friend has done, you know, that they have in Germany. What else can we do to make this place? Because obviously we're preparing you for the future. What else needs to happen here?
Well, I mean, starting from school subjects, obviously. Like, for example, in Lit, like, there are not many boys doing it, so maybe, like, maybe giving, like a taster sort of class for the guys to kind of try out literature. And if they enjoy it, then they can do it. And the same goes for girls, that doing taster classes for science subjects and math. I mean, I know that there are a lot of math students in math, like girls in math class, but for science subjects, I'm not sure, but yeah. So just to do kind of like that, like, reversal thing.
Okay.
Well, generally speaking, like the Women's Day as a whole, like I think we should, from school at least, we should like advocate it, like through, like, we have assemblies and stuff. So I think we could do that, and like or in lessons, if it's not assemblies, have a lesson just to teach, like the same for men too, for men and women, to like teach about like how the history of women and men, and like how the world is evolving with that. I think that could work.
Okay. Going to go slightly off track now. There have been obviously with the rise of YouTubers and the rise of people using online platforms that have been promoting a very anti-women message, a very misogynist message. You know, I can think of one man in particular who I'm not going to mention, but I think, you know, his rhetoric is...
Mention it, man.
So Andrew Tate, which we've had, you know, I've you know, done assemblies on him and like had, you know, discussions with my students about what his message is, you know, what he's saying, and saying, look, just because you think he's joking about it, that doesn't make it okay. What would you say, you know, about what he's saying, or how we can kind of warn students, or, you know, what can we do with this kind of information? Where do we go from here? Because clearly right now we're in the middle of an epidemic of these kind of people being given the platform to do it.
I mean, there's no way really to stop it because it's on a social platform, which many people just click and watch. And this man is crazy. And there's not really much you can do, but you can like advocate it on like more social platforms like TikTok. Everyone watches TikTok, so you can put it there and explain why this is like, this man is crazy and you shouldn't be listening to this person. Okay. And that I think that would work.
Yeah.
Or send them to jail.
True, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I think as well, you know, keeping important where you get your sources from and what, you know, is particularly said. Have you guys found that has become more of a problem nowadays, that people listening to things that they've said on TikTok that might not be true, particularly related to this topic?
I think it all started from Andrew Tate, and then after that, I've seen a lot of podcasts and stuff with men, and another trend that I've seen is men bringing a group of women, and basically just like rambling about like, women do this and that and whatever, and then the women just kind of sit there, and then when the women argue back, then they say like, leave, like you're interrupting this.
Right.
And I'm just like, that's so weird, because why would you invite them in the first place? And like, you're kind of expecting it. Like they can't just, you're not just expecting them to just sit there and listen. Of course they're going to argue back, so it's just weird for me.
Right. Yeah, no, of course. So having podcasts like this where we discuss those kind of things, having these open spaces to talk about it.
It's kind of unsettling how it's like so normalized.
Right. Absolutely. So even though we're making progress in some areas, there's still some work, I think, that we definitely need to do.
In terms of technology in general, AI as well has been really prevalent in this sort of topic of bringing women down. So there was this whole thing with Taylor Swift. I don't know if you've seen.
I have.
AI photos, inappropriate AI photos made of her in the Super Bowl. And I think that's just a way that men just can't see women enjoying sports.
Right.
I think that was the issue. So they decided to kind of do like a revenge thing and then just make like really inappropriate photos of her. So I think AI, like there's this whole thing, there weren't that many people believing it. But with AI constantly growing, there are going to be a lot more people that are going to actually believe that it happened in the future. So it's really harmful.
Yeah.
So the flip side to that would be, how would you use that to promote equality between men and women?
Well, with AI, it's hard to promote that, because there's still like a lot of men that are going to keep, like, it's kind of like a back and forth thing. Women use it for good, men use it for bad.
Well, I reckon you'll find that's always going to happen, right? There's always going to be a minority of people against the other one. It happens with any kind of movement, right? With vegans, vegetarians, meat eaters, etc., etc. You can generally accept what the norm is and what the correct thing is. Nobody can dispute the moral goodness of something. However, there's always going to be that one guy or one person that's going to be, I disagree, just because they, whoever screams loudest will get hurt, right? So there's always going to be that one.
Right.
So I mean, I think the question is whether we're moving in the right direction. Have we taken huge steps forward? Are we only halfway through? Are we a quarter of the way through? Do you think your generation will have it easy, or is it going to be your children or your grandchildren that are going to have to finally reap the benefits of all this?
Are we speaking about the AI thing or just more general?
Talking generally. In
general, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement.
Right.
Genuinely, like it's scary to see how many things are happening right now with young girls and things like that. It's like, for example, like I mentioned before, girls, like there's so many rape incidents that have happened throughout these past years, and it's terrible. There was 1 year where like it was said that 97% of women have been raped or have experienced some sort of sexual harassment from a man, and it's such a huge number, and kind of decreasing from 97% is going to take a while.
Yeah.
So I'd say
it's funny that, because I think I can say this thing as my son's not here today. But normally back in the day, you had the little birds and the bees conversations with your child, really embarrassing, right? But you got to have it. For my child, it wasn't about the birds and the bees. With my son, it was about respect, and what he can expect and where the boundaries are, because that's something that's really, the way I see it in the youth of today, especially guys, being a guy, I think it's really, really unclear. Where's the difference between admiring a woman and disrespecting a woman through your admiration? And that line has been so blurred right now. You have to be really, really, really careful.
Yeah. So these past few years, I've seen this idea of gentle parenting coming, where like the new adults, the new parents said that I don't want to be like my parents. I want to treat you as like in the way that I want to treat you. But in some ways, it's going too far. As in like, kind of like, I don't know, when their son or when their daughter even, because it even happens, a woman can do something to a man, like, and they do something, they don't respect the other gender or whatever, then they just kind of dismiss it, being like, oh, it's not your fault because you're just a kid. But it's still a bad thing. Like, they should still
you gotta be there. You gotta have respect.
You still have to show their children that it's not okay to do this. So
I completely agree with the way of you teach your son. I think that should be more normalized, like how, like our future generation, we can teach our children how to like be respectful and admire women and like have boundaries, and I think that's a wonderful way of teaching. I think we can start from there.
Yeah.
Too.
I think the hard thing is respecting other people's boundaries. You can have your own. You're your own person. You might have a family upbringing that sets up the boundaries for yourself. I think the hard bit is something that's really prevalent these days, which is understanding what the other person's boundaries are. Just because you can talk to somebody one way doesn't mean that you can talk to another person another way. And I'm talking mostly from a man to a woman's perspective, because it's International Women's Day. That didn't used to happen back in my day. It was, unfortunately, it was quite generalized that the guy would say whatever, and the whistle at the girl passing by. These days, the girl might love that whistle, but you don't know, and you got to make sure that you know before you whistle. And that's the hard bit, and that's the hard bit to educate, because it's not. I think that's where we have a long way to go.
Yeah,
the fact that not everybody's the same. Women are all different, and some women like one thing, other women like the other. But us as men, we have to respect every single one of them and know exactly where the boundaries are, without asking, because you can ask and offend as well.
Right.
And that's hard. That's hard to do. But necessary.
It goes back to that idea of choice, and we're so obsessed with putting people into these categories. Paula mentioned it at the very beginning of the podcast, that men were pushed into the kind of the breadwinning role, the kind of almost the hunter-gatherer like, and women, they stayed at home. They're two separate areas. It's this idea that, from what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm wrong, that we need to kind of respect that we don't have to occupy the spaces that society dictates for us. So if you want to, if a man wants to, like, my dream is to be a dad, and if I get to stay at home and look after the kids, that'd be great, right? So, and I don't have a problem with that, and that should, that's okay, even though it's a role traditionally, before in the past, occupied by women. It's kind of something that anyone should be able to do. But then on the flip side, women, if they want to become, a top CEO of some company, or you mentioned engineering earlier, then they should. So it's kind of allowing for this freedom and not having to follow a status quo, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Some really deep discussions, I think, today.
It's a deep subject.
It is a deep subject. No, it is a deep subject. But I'm glad that there's been a lot of candor and honesty, and I think that's that's really important. Particularly with a subject like this, where there can be a lot of tension. There can be sometimes people tiptoe around certain issues. So have you guys ever had the opportunity to talk about things like this out loud?
Well, unfortunately, from my experience, I have not been able to have that sort of conversation because, I'm talking from personal experience. For example, when I'm at an event where I have friends of family and things like that, and there has been some people from there acting really inappropriately towards me and kind of engaging in physical contact that I'm not welcome in, and then I tell my my actual family members about it, and they just say they're just friends, they wouldn't do anything like that to you. But it's why aren't you listening?
Right.
It's
Those are the
really
boundaries
sad.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important to establish these boundaries. These are old men, say middle-aged men. Even if they're old men, they still should be able to learn that there are people out there. There are younger people out there who need boundaries, who also have boundaries. Not everyone's living the old way, the old class type of way. So it's a new generation, new boundaries. So they should be respected.
Well, the sad where we still have work to do is the fact that those middle-aged men that you're talking about, I'm assuming I'm one of them. They don't have those boundaries, which means that they're probably not educating their children with those boundaries.
Right.
And I think that's where we have a little bit of ground to cover.
Definitely. So.
Yeah.
And getting the guys to study literature.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm curious, what do you think that is? Because I here at Sunnyview School, I don't think we separate that from the boys from the girls.
No.
We do have our options fair.
Yeah, we do.
And everybody has an equal opportunity to check subjects. So I'm assuming what you're saying is that at that options fair, for instance, it'll be the women gravitating towards the literature side and the guys So why is that? I mean, is that an educational thing? Okay, I never actually thought about it in those terms.
Think,
I mean, I know from once we leave school and you finish university and access those jobs, then yes, then you can say there's huge discrimination. But I never thought of it in terms of, while you're at school, that already starts happening.
It's interesting. I think there could be a number of reasons for it. I think one, because more science subjects, with the fact that they are right or wrong, and it's very much kind of almost, some people would argue that that's a very male way of thinking, kind of I do X so then this makes Y, whereas in lit and subjects like literature, history, geography, those kind of like more human or those kind of discussion based subjects, there's a lot more, well, it could be this and it could be that, and there's a lot more discussion of feelings, which I think also raises that other question, which is a whole other topic for another podcast, talking, men and their reticence to, and their lack of wanting to talk about feelings and thoughts and ideas and stuff like that. And because it's a more discussion-based subject, I think that's probably why. I don't know whether you guys would like to add anything to that.
I agree, because whenever I'm talking with female friends, we always express and we explain. Mm-hmm. And whenever I've spoken to a male, it's more monosyllabic and very short answers. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more that women like to explain. Mm-hmm. Well, men don't really. Right.
Well, now here, out of curiosity, speaking of subjects, let's do a little survey here. What subjects do you sit?
I do English Lit,
right?
French, economics, and psychology.
Okay, right.
I do English Lit, history, and Spanish.
Niels?
I do economics, geography, and history.
Yeah, when I did my A-levels in 2009, which seems like forever ago, I feel really old now, I did French, Spanish, English Lit, and graphic design.
All right. And in the audience and our tech, is anybody doing sciences?
Oh, okay. No.
Rose? No sciences?
Okay, so my theory's just been broken, right? My theory's just been broken.
Well, this is a very small representation of our students.
True. This is true.
But that means that we're moving here at Sunny School, we're moving in the right direction.
And which is good. And actually, I just, if it's okay with you, want to ask Sophia, who Sophia does, if I remember correctly, further maths and history?
Yeah.
Do you feel, come closer, Sophia, come closer. Do you feel that, you are occupied, or it's a kind of a very male space, or do you not feel that there is that argument or that dichotomy there?
Can you hear me properly?
Perfect.
Okay. Wonderfully.
I think my maths class is very mixed. There are a bit more males, but there is a good amount of women in there as well. And with history as well, there's one male, but it's also a class of 4 or 5 people, so you can't really judge that very well. And my further maths class has got more women than men. So, but I think, for example, literature has no men, so I think that women tend to be a lot more willing to enter male-dominated spaces, whereas men are less willing to enter female-dominated spaces.
Well, that's a good point.
And for example, for example, women are completely okay with wearing trousers. That's not even seen as weird anymore. But if a man wears a skirt, that's still, some people look at that and go, "Oh, is that normal?"
Well, I'll go even. I'll even simplify even more. I think for a man to walk into a room full of women, that's quite a bit more intimidating than a woman walking into a a room full of men.
Absolutely.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that kind of ties in with men not being able to express their emotions. Mm-hmm. So it's when they're even a bit expressive, a tiny bit out of the comfort zone, they're like, no, this isn't for me, So if they could wear a skirt or something.
Oh.
And I think that men like to do the same sort of stuff. If all your friends are going to go into sciences, then you're going to want to lean more into sciences. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think women with this female empowerment stuff, I feel more I'm okay with going into maths and further maths, and whenever I get a question right, it just feels really empowering. Yeah. But I think men don't get that extra empowerment. Yeah. When I get the best score in the class, I'm yes, go woman.
That's interesting. So there are underlying, so even though obviously it's brought out underlying things, that we've got a lot of areas to work on and kind of providing
looks like it, yeah,
spaces for everyone to kind of be and exist.
Yeah. I think once, do you think, or rather, I think, and more of a question, do you think once we reach that utopia where men and women are finally equal, do you think we'll start with a second race, which is where are men and women different? really different, as opposed to society saying this is why they're different. Because clearly there are differences between men and women, or not. Are there differences between men and women?
Well, physically there are differences.
Yeah.
But
This is a hard one these days, huh?
I would argue psychologically as well.
Everywhere, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, everywhere.
you just gotta wonder, because we're. It's a question. I don't say there are or not. I mean, I know I'm different, but just because I'm different to you doesn't mean that I'm the same as Mr. McKean or Niels.
Exactly.
Right? We're very different.
Yeah.
But do we have any common traits that make us men and you women, or are there women and men?
Right.
It's we are coming to that discussion, aren't we? Eventually, once we level the playing field out, we have to say, okay, is it good that we're level, or should we not be? You know, what's the difference between two humans and a man and a woman?
That's a hard
That's
one.
a tough one.
That is a tough question.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Right.
For another podcast, because we're running out of time.
For another podcast.
Possibly.
Definitely. So,
No, actually, for a podcast in the future, once we're equal, then we can talk about it.
yeah, absolutely.
That's probably going to be like 100 years or something.
Let's hope not. Let's
hope not. So, as a final thought, what would you like to leave our listeners with today? So, we've discussed many things from International Women's Day, discussing the relationship there between men and women, within the school environment in the future. What would you like to, something you'd like to leave our listeners with today, or something you would like to change for the future, or what next? What would your final thought be?
I'd say, like, in general, just go for it.
Mhm.
Like, if you want to become an engineer, become an engineer. If you want to, I don't know, make movies, then make movies. Like, whatever you want to do, just go for it. Like, you don't have to fit into the social norms. So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
I completely agree with Paula. I think just do whatever you want and have fun with it. Like, no one should be stopping you, and you should be yourself, I think.
Yeah, completely agree. Do what you want to do.
Don't be afraid. I know that's easier said than done. If you feel that you have to occupy a space that your kind of sex or your gender, I suppose, doesn't usually occupy, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo just because things have been done a certain way for a number of years. That doesn't make it okay.
Totally agree. And one final word: respect.
Always.
Always respect each other.
Always.
All right, I think we're done. I think this is it's been a great podcast. We could go on and on and on, I reckon.
Definitely.
But I
Yeah.
think this is a good place to stop.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming, Paula, Rania, Niels,
Thank you.
Mr. McKean.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
to
you.
our audience. Raul there at the back, and everyone present, very quiet. One day he will say something.
Yes.
And as usual, thanks to our two women technicians back there, manning the controls. Erica. Oh, here we go. Erica. Manning the cameras. Jess. Manning another camera.
Oh.
Anyway, great team we have here. Thank you very much for coming. This is Sunnyview School. As usual, come join us. Reduced numbers, as Sophia said. Thanks for coming, guys. See you in 2 weeks.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.